Welcome back from the break, and thank you for sticking with us right here on Pivotal Change. We're now moving to our first guest of the evening, and it's a very exciting guest because it's one of my personal mentors in life. We're going to be speaking with Wayne Shelton, who is a CPA from Shelton Associates CPA. He is the owner and the founder of that wonderful company, which is based on tax planning, consultation, and delivering advisory services to small and medium-sized businesses and high net worth individuals. So, Wayne, welcome back to the show, sir.
Thank you very much.
So one of the things that I want to kind of tell a little bit about about your background to our audience base here is that you've been in the industry now. This is going on your 50th year, and you probably would not claim this, so I'll brag for you. Is that you were one of the leading experts in the industry, going back from a time where audits were king to where tax work was king, and now advisory and consultation is king. So we're going to be talking about consultation services. How long have you been delivering consultation and advisory services?
Well, probably 10 or 15 years, probably out of the 50 years. Yeah. And particularly heavy in the last 5.
Okay. So in the last 5 years, I know personally that the style of consultation has drastically changed as well. So one of the things that I want you to do for us is tell us, because you do a lot of consulting, why is it so important? And why does it seem like all of the successful entrepreneurs and business leaders have consultants of some type? What's the emphasis there and how does it work?
Well, one of the things we tell a lot of the people we work with is we will tell you the mistakes that we've made to keep you from making them. So I think what you're doing is you're shortcutting the process of trial and error so much. It's there's so many things that it's hard to learn unless somebody tells you. And learning things the hard way is usually not the best way.
It's usually not the best way. I agree. It may really stick with its point, but also sometimes learning the hard way can be pretty
You'll
expensive
remember
for some people.
it. You'll
Yeah,
remember it sometimes. Yeah.
you'll remember it. So, in summary, that answer is a lot of the consultants have the ability to shortcut people, to take other experiences or their own personal life experiences and then apply them in a way where you get to learn from all of their past mistakes and all of their past victories. And it's a shortcut to success using a consultant.
Exactly.
That's awesome. So when we're looking, let's say I'm an owner or leader of a business and I'm looking for a consultant, what should we start looking for? What should a business owner look for in an advisor or a consultant?
I think the first thing they need to determine is what is it they're trying to get out of the consultant. They've got to define that. And then when you do that, it's a lot easier to find your consultant. And it's, for example, if you're looking use us as an example, if you want to know how to do tax planning, find somebody that's done a lot of it. And that way you find out what they did well, what they did wrong, and how they went about it. So it shortcuts the whole process for you.
Gotcha. So you said something really impactful that I want everyone to listen with a pen and paper. Is you said define the problem. And there's a famous quote that says, if you can articulate the problem, you're halfway to solving it. And so if you can define the problem, you can now seek out the exact consultant that you need. And of course, we do 2 styles of consulting. We teach people how to do tax planning. And of course, we also do the tax planning. So let's talk about some of the consultation styles that are out there, because there's some of these fly by night people. There are some of these people that basically come and be a part of your company. What should really somebody look for if they're trying to get off the ground, they're trying to get over that first identified hurdle or problem? Are they looking for something that should be really short and intense? Are they looking for something that should be dribbled in over time, or a combination of the two? What do you
I
think?
think a combination of the two. And the way we do it is we do a very intense 2.5 days where we spend basically 12 hours a day with them. And that's very intense. It's short, it's quick. But what we also do is we will work with them over the next 12 months or as long as they want. And we will check in with them, find out how everything's going and that type thing. So I think a little bit of both is what you need.
Okay, so a combination of the two. I think maybe with modern generations, especially with a lot of Gen Xers and even more millennials and even Gen Zs entering the workforce, even in ownership now, a lot of people are looking for that quick fix, that easy button. And a consultant that maybe promises a quick fix and an easy button up front, maybe a little bit of a snake oil salesman, but
Yeah. The process is not always easy. And usually, depending on your problem, it can be pretty brutal, because what we do, for example, is we go in and tell people, we look at their situation and say, you're not charging near enough. Well, that's a hard discussion to have because, you know, the people don't want to have to charge any more than they have to. They don't want to run their clients off, but they need to be fairly paid for the work that they do. So it's a balance. And when you go in and talk to somebody about it, they've got to. Sometimes it's tough.
Okay. So you've drilled down to a specific point here, which I think is really like is that the consultant needs to be very honest and direct, of course, respectful and professional. But in the topic that you're talking about, you're seeing specific business owners not value themselves and not fairly sell their product or compensate themselves because of some type of self-image or unawareness of what the actual market is demanding and is willing to pay for their high quality service. Am I getting close on that one?
You are exactly, because here's the thing. I think it's our problem as a CPA, as we charge people, we don't value our services enough. The client, I will tell you, many, many times when I will put a price out there that I am really concerned about, the client says, yeah, sounds good. Check it off, pay it. So I think it's our problem to not charge enough. I think we a lot of times just undervalue our own, abilities.
Okay. I really like this topic that we're talking about here. So, how do you, as the consultant, convey a message to one of your clients, again, your consulting clients, that they are valuable and here's a methodology for you to now start changing and delivering and realizing your value both mentally with your own mind and realizing your value both monetarily through the amount of pay that you get for your services?
Yeah, that's what you've got to do. You've got to look at what the market will bear in their area, and I think you also have to look at what the real value, like if you talk to a client and you save them $100,000, is that worth $50 of the time that you might have taken? Or is that worth $10,000 or $50,000 or something like that? And that's a very hard concept to get across to people because, a lot of people have the answers off the top of their head and they will answer immediately, give the client the answer, and then they won't ever bill them for it. And the client is perfectly happy to pay for those services because they know that they're getting value. So what we have to understand is, what is our value?
Yeah, I like that a lot. That reminds me of a story of a very famous artist that most people are familiar with.
Yeah.
We have a client that says, "Hey, I just did a lot of stuff just because I kind of knew it off the top of my head, and I was able to save you $50 to $100,000 in taxes. That 15 minutes is not what I should be compensated for." So Picasso, one of the very rare famous artists of his time, was sitting at a cafe having his morning coffee, and a very prestigious high society woman of the town walks by and recognizes him as the artist and approaches him and says, "Please make a piece of work for me. Please draw me a picture. Please, I insist, I insist." And even though he tried to deny, he finally gives in and takes out a napkin and he draws the picture of a dove on this napkin. And he presents it to the woman and he says, "Here you go, ma'am, my work, that is $500. And in shock, she gasps and says, "How dare you charge me $500, which back then would have been a small fortune, for what took you only 5 minutes to complete?" He says, "Ma'am, you misunderstand me. This did not take me 5 minutes to complete, but my entire lifetime to master." And that is what you are driving out of your clients, is that your 50 years of experience and all of the hills and the valleys that you've been through, all of the places you've seen, all of the experience that you have allows you to answer that question in 15 minutes. And the
Yes.
value is not appropriate for you to charge for time, but instead value, experience, wisdom, accuracy, and ultimately results based.
The story is that's right on point. That's exactly the case.
So, in your consulting services, and probably our last question before we jump to commercial here, tell me about some of the effects, some of the results that you've seen or experienced with your clients as you network with them and as you consult them. What do you see after the fact?
You know, and it's very interesting because you see a number of things. One of the things you see is the excitement that they see that there is a different path forward. And a lot of times, like last week, we were on a case, and they've been doing it for 30 years. You get burned out after 30 years. But when you say pull something out that's new and very exciting, that it kind of lets you start over fresh. Now, some of the other results we've seen, for example, we went down to one place down in Texas, and after we left, within a month, they increased their billing by 37% in 1 month. And so those things are very satisfying to me because, you can see that they're listening to what you're saying, they're taking it to heart, and they're using the techniques that you've given them. And that's all you can ask. I mean, they're excited, we're excited. I love to see people have success like that.
I think most people would be very excited to have success for somebody that they've imparted any of their knowledge or wisdom to. And I think you're bringing out really good points here. So maybe a byproduct, what do you see as the effect maybe in your network or your relationship with them? Do you now have friends and contacts all over the country? Do they have friends and contacts with you?
Absolutely. And that is one of my favorite parts is getting to meet people from different places, see how they do business in different places. And yes, we make friends for life like that. Uh, I had one that invited me to come and go hunting with them, and that's great. And their son is an airline pilot, and he comes by this area. We told him to stop by and come in and see us. So yeah, that's my actual favorite part is getting to meet the different people.
And the network. So it expands your world, it expands your network, and it gives you lifelong relationships. That's a great spot
Absolutely.
for me to jump in and stick a pin. What we're going to do, Wayne, is you hold on because we're bringing you back for another segment. And everybody else out there watching Pivotal Change, sit tight. We'll be back with more Wayne Shelton right after this.